Namaste and welcome, beloved mighty companions. We keep calling this the Straight Up Club. And several of you have been beautiful reflections that this is a rocket ship. So we'll strap our seatbelts on and just go for it. And it is a rocket ship. It really is. Jesus has given us everything in A Course in Miracles that we need to see as far as what's below our level of awareness. And now he's really, it's always been there. It's just, this is what's been most helpful for me in terms of developing that deep relationship with him and talking to him about everything. And then letting him tell me how it really is rather than the idea of what I thought it was. And not only to tell, but to bring us into the direct experience. That's the call of the heart here. Was at some point we get to the point, well, okay, I've kind of seen that this consciousness play doesn't work so well. Mm-hmm. You know, we've all been around the consciousness loop through the desire for it. And it's like, okay, Jesus, we just got to go for gold, platinum. The light's here. And what is it that I'm choosing rather than light? And not even, and then pretending like I don't really know how I'm choosing not for light, and all the ways, the diversity of ways and the fractionation of consciousness to pretend like it's not chosen. I didn't choose this. And how every time we twitch, it's not admitting we chose the experience. And so I know that I needed Jesus, and I still need him to just show me wherever there's those catacomb little desire things, and then not admitting it, because that's the twitch. The twitch is not admitting the choice to deny, because the light doesn't twitch. That light of being, like if we look, can we find a twitch in infinite light? So I think Jesus, this is a favorite, and I know it's a favorite of many course students, to go through the song of prayer, the only song worth singing. The song of true identity, the song of gratitude. And I can remember someone saying to me, you should be grateful, you know, for whatever I was saying no to, or you should get down on your knees and be grateful. And I tell you, getting down on my knees was the last thing I was thinking about right then. Because the I is the antithesis of gratitude. The Antichrist is the antithesis of gratitude, because gratitude's identity. It's really not till he points it out. And as I said, you know, just following one of those assignments, or we follow the assignments, which leads, that's why the ego just like I say, splay out like a dog in the backyard, like on the grass going, I'm not going to move, you know, doesn't want to look or follow those assignments, because the assignments of Jesus brings the mind to the direct experience. And chances are it's going to be something the ego want to say no to. Ask Jesus. Yep, that's what he's saying. So until we say no to the ego, and as my dear mighty companion Kirsten Buxton said, do you know how many times I've had to say no? Do you know how many times you're going to have to say no? Acceptance of divine power, we're going to say it as many times as necessary, because the ego's finite. So we're infinitely be saying no to the ego, but we have to say no to the ego now, because we believe it's exists. Got to cut the delusion off at the knees. So chances are good it's going to really just duke it out with anything that's going to get it close to the recognition. It was like, as I talked about that story in Bali, some just kind of casual. We've all seen this with Jesus, just kind of casually walking by those motor scooters and thinking, that's the last thing do is get on a motor scooter. Because like my motorcycles were like, keep those away from me. And somehow before with buses, it seems to be buses, trains, wherever the fear was in the mind, motorcycles. Now, this is not necessarily, doesn't feel like a good advertisement, but it really is, wherever there's seemingly fear, which is the desire to use form to deny infinite light, of course, that's the mind. That's because we asked him, bring the mind, bring me. And when he gets you close, then you can just start to feel the reversal on a paddle wheeler, those big on the Mississippi River, and they'd have those old, that big old paddle wheel, and you could just hear the gears grinding to just start backpedaling. Jesus, anything but this, really. But by that time, he gets us so trained, because I could see through numerous of these lead follows, you're always ready for what, just pretend like we aren't. We're infinite beings. We're always ready. The ego's going to go, I'm not ready for this. Who's speaking? We really have to be in awareness. Like, it was beautiful with Walter expressing today and saying, we have to know which voice is speaking. I mean, that was stunning today. It was so stunning that morning today with the brothers. Everybody's just going, I'm in. We're getting emails. We're getting texts. I'm in. Get me. Let's go. And that's what we have to do. I mean, I can't say I was totally enthusiastic. Oh, Jesus, this is going to be really fun. Let me just jump this motor scooter. But we have enough trust for them. Say, okay, all right. Just close my eyes. Jesus, I'm going to get on this little motor scooter here. And, it's like miraculous the whole way. The guy reminded me, we don't have any kind of insurance here in Bali. We don't have any insurance for motor scooter. I'm thinking, okay, I got the Holy Spirit's plan, got the Holy Spirit's insurance. Really, wrong side of the road. The wrong side of the road. What do you mean, Jesus? That's the wrong side of the road. Left side of the road. I don't know how to ride a motorcycle. I mean, because of consciousness, there's an infinite reasons not to follow, because consciousness is an infinite. It's a finite reason not to follow, but we've made it through our decisions seem infinite. And you'll see that in chapter 20, when he brings the mind, you have the desire to make it seem like it's going to be hard to wake up or take a long time, all those desired experiences. But you get on the bike, at some point, we all had enough. We're going to jump in. Like, I don't care, we can see, like Walter was saying, I can see that voice jumping in anyway. We have to. Because that is the only way to see what's truly here. It is the only way. I can't find, if I could have found another way not to ride all those buses, that would have been comfort zone. See, he was taking me out of my comfort zone, definitely on the motor scooter thing, driving around, not knowing where I'm going. That was a great thing, though, because you don't need to know where you're going. He knows where you go. And riding on that motor scooter, and all of a sudden I was so happy. What is that? But it just sheared off. It helped shear off the idea, the concept that happiness was from doing. It just sheared it. Because I'm riding that motor scooter and the sun, and real, wait a minute, this happiness. No, this isn't happiness related to the body doing something. This is identity. Happiness is identity. That's what he's bringing to every time he's given us an assignment. What happens is with our assignments, we whinge instead of just really stepping into them and going, you know, I mean, like I said, it was beautiful today with Walter going, I'm just either, I'm going for it. We have to do that. Okay, Jesus. And we may be like whinging, but still do it, Jesus. You know, get on that motorcycle. Because we have to see where we're praying for something that's unreal. We have to see how we've abdicated the kingdom by having subconscious desires that pray for something other than gifts of the Father. And that we turn over the atonement. And that's another thing I didn't see that because that's a play of consciousness. Oh, I'll just be involved. You know, the I is trying to be involved, weasel in on the atonement. So it's so beautiful to have him talk about prayer. So I'll listen to what he says. I'm going to just go back to the ladder of prayer here, part 2. Oh my gosh, so glorious. Prayer has no beginning and no end. First prayer is, you know, we're going to kneel down at the bed. You say it before you go to sleep, which is helpful because Jesus even says, think about God before you go to sleep. That's a great reminder, Jesus. Thank you. We are prayer. That's identity. You can ask Jesus. Jesus is prayer identity. It's the unending song. That's all that light is. It's an unending song singing. And then there's the twitch. There's the idea that rises up, and it's believed we're just a little fragment. The toenail. You know, we're some kind of little tiny object. We have to see that. And I just remember I was laughing with someone at Sahaja, Amala. Oh my gosh, what a being. And we were having a little talk, and I said, oh my gosh, I can just see it. I just want to say to Jesus, Jesus, I like congealing like Jello into an object. You could see that the light is here, and just, oh, I want to be a Jello. I want to be an object. And that's what we're looking at. It's like the wanting of being a solid object called the body. And so I didn't really talk super much today about the relishing, but I think what we'll do is the teams going through, it just feels really supportive for the whole, for us too. It's for us to join with our mighties, that we'll get together every maybe 8 to 10 days or something and just join and share what you're teaching them. And so, because it has to be experienced, you know, and Mary and Irene will tell you, you know, at first you're like, what am I doing? But it's just staying with it and trusting them. And you'll see how fast and direct it gets when those desires to make miracles different, difficulty in order of miracles washes out. So prayer has, let's examine that with Jesus. And the light of divine being and honesty of God will check the light. Does the light have a beginning or an end in our direct experience? So the light's what's most natural to us, and it does not have a beginning, and its nature is prayer. You can ask Jesus, is light nature prayer? And hear his answer, yes. But it's not praying for anything. It's not a prayer that wants something. It's a prayer that celebrates itself unendingly. It's a celebration of all that's given, rather than the type of prayer that in the play of consciousness, the I want prayer. And then the prayers that we have to find that are below our level of awareness, the I want something other than God prayer that's generating an experience of a world. I want an experience other than God. I want to hide that experience in the catacombs, in the play of fractionated consciousness, and then let it come out. And then I'm just totally surprised. What happened? Like he talks about face of innocence. Prayer has no beginning, no end. So it doesn't really matter. You can ask the light, am I always praying? And hear the answer. And am I always praying to God and hear Jesus's answer? There is no way to escape praying to God, because being synonymous with him, we don't suddenly, because we play in consciousness, lose divine nature. Yet we can pretend through a dream that we forgot what divine nature is. So the prayer continues, whether or not we want to admit it or not. It's just like the light. Can we get rid of light? Even can't get rid of it. So we get rid of prayer, of the infinite, because prayer is us. It's what we are. Prayer has no beginning and no end. Being beings that have no beginning and end, it is a part of life. The big L. This has a little L here, but it is the big infinite light of being. That is only function it knows is prayer, the celebration of all that is. But it does change in form and grow with learning until it reaches its formless state. So he's pointing to formlessness. Like I said, I really wanted to congeal like an object. And that's what we have to see, how through desire we congealed into like experience. Formless state infuses into total communion with God. Boy, I love this. Fuse, and you just... to recognize what can never be unfused. To finally admit that we cannot be unfused with God. And I remember going up to Muji and satsang and saying, I feel like you handcuffed me to God. Because it feels is that stuff washes out. You realize you can't separate it, but through the guidance of a master that will point continually, you're okay, nothing bad's going to happen, go for it, look, it's so inspiring. Look, you're fine. You know, everybody be blowing up in satsang and Muji's just going, it's inspiring. That's what we're here to tell me. You're good. Keep going. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're God. You're God. You're God, until you're willing to admit it. In its asking form, it need not and often does not make appeal to God or even involve belief in him. All these levels, prayer is merely wanting. See, the wanting prayer. Really our wanting prayer is. That's the experience here. And just admit it. That's all chapter 20 is, going in there and looking and just seeing that energy of wanting. And as we've talked about, once you kind of, at least the experience here is, once you start seeing that, I gotta have it, and then you go down and see that little devil energy down there, like, oh, I want to usurp God so bad, and I want to have it with ice cream. Mm-hmm. Really, like that mission of just relishing that thing. And it's hilarious because obviously I wasn't really, that's just a play of consciousness, you know, it's innocence. But I don't think definitely until I went back and looked at the course and had gone through, you know, typing this book and working with Jesus, and then recognizing that light's here, did I see until he really just showed me how much energy is suppressed into that denial. How much wanting, how much relishing, how much like just loving death with every fiber. You know, and having it admit it, oh, seeing that. But it's helpful because it releases. See, then it can just rise up and just totally melt into light. But what happens is then, okay, so here's a desire. And then as soon as desire pops out into the duality, like in the desire for the experience of two, you're already, it's like too late. You're already going to be in fear. You're in the guilt zone. Up there. Jesus, this is kind of like the advanced session, but Jesus is bringing the mind right into desire. So it's before fear. So if you're in fear, you're too high up into the split. Just go, okay, show me the desire for fear. Hello, assistant. Myra has a little Spanish assistant there. She just keeps the translation. God just keeps the channel open, you know, and the simultaneous speaker system between me and Dyra in stereo. So great. At these levels of prayer is merely wanting. So we're talking about the wanting. So we have to see what we're praying for. Because I can remember, oh, you know, I just pray for God, help me, God, help me, God. And we all, I have a feeling everyone here has prayed that prayer, help me, God. And we're right in the middle. And now Jesus showing me every time, like I was saying that, how he was helping me. It was actually released a miracle that was unrecognized. So that's another thing, helpful. So we're kind of praying for something when we're already being helped. That's so humbling. We have to ask them. I don't even know when I'm being helped. So these forms of prayer or asking out of need always involve feelings of weakness and inadequacy and could never be made by the Son of God who knows who he is. See, this is where he's pointing us right into the catacombs. Those prayers below the subconscious mind just crop up and create the timeline. No one then who is sure of his identity could pray in these forms. You just start to see how that's a denial of having everything. If you pray for something, you pray to manifest something, you're praying for the unreal to manifest. Manifestation is unreal. You can ask them because we can all hear them. Ask them about that. Jesus, is manifestation unreal? So when we're praying for objects, see, we're not letting God have a word in edgewise. Remember how Jesus says in chapter 30, you've already decided before you come to me what your need is. He's training us, come to me first and ask me to tell you what your need is. You need nothing. Then he'll tell us, no, you don't need anything because you are everything. You have everything. Yeah, the internet. Okay, hold on a minute. Let me do a check here and find out what the scoop is, if I can get out of here. Okay. Seems to be. Okay, we'll just kind of keep track of it, Dyra. Can anyone else confirm that the internet seems to be lagging so that we confirm it's mine? It is lagging today? Okay, not sure why. Okay, good. Hold on a minute. Okay, we'll just jump on Wi-Fi if that's necessary. and see how it goes. Okay. Yet it's also true that no one who is uncertain of his identity can avoid praying in this way. So if we're uncertain, we're going to ask for objects and things. Because you'll start to see how asking for those things, but it's very subtle to start noticing this. You start to see how that prayer denies infinite life. It's actually a call to death. That's pretty deep. Because first of all, if you have everything given in the Father, what would we be praying for then? We already have everything. See the contradiction in that? But he understands that that's the way the consciousness works, to feel in this constant state of inadequacy and wanting. And then we're praying God for something, for help. It's a form of asking for help. Prayer is continual as life, the big L. They got a little L here, but we're talking about infinite life. Everyone prays without ceasing. It's our nature. Ask Jesus, is it my nature to pray without ceasing? But now he's saying, what is it for? What is prayer for? What are we calling for? Ask and you have received, for you have established what it is you want. It is also possible to reach a higher form of asking out of need, for in this world, prayer is reparative, and so it must entail levels of learning. And that's really where the mercy of God is involved. Really, because there's an understanding that we've gotten confused about our identity. So God's not going to come and slash us. You know, you're praying for objects, you know, down there. So no, he doesn't withhold. He doesn't withhold anything. We're withholding from ourselves. But until we see how we're withholding it from ourselves, he understands, like, that's why he's talking about a ladder of prayer. Here, asking may be addressed to God in honest belief, though not yet in understanding. And it's honest, you know, in its own way. We're asking for what we understand or think that we need based on our beliefs. A vague and usually unstable sense of identification has generally been reached, but tends to be blurred by deep-rooted sense of sin. That's what Jesus is taking us to with chapter 20, to the deep roots of sin, of the belief and the desire for experience of sin. It is possible at this level to continue to ask for things of this world in various forms. And it is also possible to ask for gifts such as honesty or goodness, and particularly for forgiveness for the many sources of guilt that inevitably underlie any prayer of need. Without guilt, there's no scarcity. Love that. We talked about that yesterday. Good to look at. The sinless have no needs. So there's still a belief in sin, but it's so, you have to have Jesus for me, that Jesus show me how those little, it seems so subtle. It's asking for anything other than what we are. It's a thought of a future that we're investing in. It seems so innocent. It is innocent ultimately, but from a standpoint of the way it's experienced within consciousness, it really is hell. Because the whole movement in consciousness is from the belief in limitation. At this level also comes a curious contradiction in terms of praying for one's enemies. Now, last night we started talking about praying for one's enemy. The contradiction lies, you know, like, God help her. She's really, you know, whatever limitation comes out of our mouth about a brother, unless it's given by Jesus to say it, is a belief about ourselves. because I'm surprised at things that come out of my mouth sometimes that are given by Jesus, because it's helpful, but it's pure. It doesn't come from, there's no judgment in it. It just serves the whole some way, and I can't know what that is, so I just say it. It's not limiting. It's not self-limiting. But in the play of consciousness, where there's a belief in limitation, and we try to pin the tail on our brother, you know, that brother's bad or that brother's limited, that is, we'll have the direct experience of that limitation. And yet, if you have enemies, you have need of prayer and great need too. What does the phrase really mean? Pray for yourself that you may not seek to imprison Christ and thereby lose the recognition of your own identity. Be traitor to no one, or you will be treacherous to yourself. An enemy is the symbol of an imprisoned Christ, so even the belief in enemies. But what's really helpful here, and that was a great example of Irene and Mary, because there were some times where they seemed in the play of consciousness to be at opposition, but they shared the one goal, which is to know the truth. And that really carries the firepower of God behind that. When we're in willingness, we carry the firepower of God. We need to know that. Because we're so used in the play of consciousness, so used to playing weak just because for fun, but it's not really fun because we suffer. Well,
Just for fun.
I'm just saying. It's not fun. It's actually hell, but what, you know, we'd like to pretend like pleasure is a good deal in the play of consciousness. So it's an enemy, but it's so embedded in the subconscious mind. That's why these joinings are so great, because it's going to bring all that screaming up. Not want. Well, the ego's going to scream, you know, and definitely project, and you know, what's wrong with my partner, and they're laughing because. But it becomes funny because, you know, it's not possible. You know, you see the play now. We're not stapled to the play anymore. We're not stapled. We see, as I was reading through some of the quotes, Mary's been capturing the quotes, and it was like, who says we have to believe that voice? We need to check in and see if there's a little book inside of it that says, and by the way, you must listen to that voice. Like, we assume it's true. I never question it, you know. I assume I have to listen to it. No, we don't. And it could, and who could he be except yourself, the Christ? So we're praying always for ourselves. I mean, that's really the bottom line. Seems like we're praying for someone. It's a boomerang. It's always pointing back to ourselves. We can only pray. There's only one, until we see that we are prayer. We seem to pray for something. We pray, a good prayer is to pray to see the truth. That's the reversal in thought. That's the turning in. That's how Jesus uses consciousness, the play of consciousness, to turn into itself to see what's true. Because the light doesn't need to see what's true. It's already true. But we need it. It's like Pogo. How does that go? We found the enemy and it's us. There's no enemy outside. The enemy is in the mind, the idea in the mind that there's an enemy that we have to look at. The prayer for enemies thus becomes a prayer for your own freedom. Now it is no longer a contradiction in term. It becomes a statement of the unity of Christ and a recognition of his sinlessness. And now it has become holy, for it acknowledges the Son of God as he was created. If this isn't a testament to how Jesus can use everything in consciousness, in the play of consciousness, to fold back on itself, to see that infinite light is here, this would be it right now. To look upon the face of the enemy and look only for Christ. Only for the prayer to see the Christ. Prayer is a ladder reaching up to heaven. At the top, there is a transformation much like your own, for prayer is part of you. It's what's most natural to us. You can ask Jesus, is prayer natural to me? What happens is the ego co-opts prayer. It co-opts prayer, what prayer is, and then prayer is an object. It's an objective experience. And when you look at prayer, if you actually look at, you're praying for something in the future usually. You want this to happen. I want to be safe from the coronavirus. You can see how that play. Happiness is the prayer of the self as happiness. That's it. It's continually singing. It's beyond the concept of what prayer is. It's supreme happiness exactly as it is. Supreme happiness, period. That's true prayer. At the top, there's a transformation much like your own, for prayer is part of you. The things of the earth are left behind and all unremembered. Does the light of divine being, in honesty of God, does that remember the earth? Just the light. Just notice the light and see if it remembers one thing about the earth. One little smidgen of earth in there. There's no earth in there. There's just light. There's no asking, for there's no lack. So we look in the light of infinite being. Is there any lack in light? Can infinite light of being have lack? Is the light asking for anything? Doesn't ask for anything. Identity in Christ is fully recognized as set forever beyond all change and incorruptible. The light no longer flickers and will never go out. The play of consciousness is to pretend that the light can go out. Now, without need of any kind and clad forever in pure sinlessness that is the gift of God to you, his Son, prayer can again become what is meant to be. For now it rises as a song of thanks to your Creator, sung without words or thoughts or vain desires, unneedful now of anything at all. So it extends as it was meant to do. And for this giving, God himself gives thanks. So all Jesus is teaching us is that we are prayer itself. And that the idea in consciousness is if I go meditate somewhere, that's prayer. Prayer is right here, right now. Washing a dish, folding the laundry. You know, they say, what do they say? You know, what do you do before enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The difference is you're a heck of a lot happier after. They don't talk about that point. Because there's no, you see that it's the play of consciousness. It's an expression of the dream that rolls out of consciousness, but it's not taken as real so seriously. You're not identified with thought. Like, you know, the kind of thoughts I was having, as I said, as I was sweeping at Living Miracles as a volunteer, the thoughts of hell. You know, the idea that I'm less than because they're having me sweep, you know. How low can you go? How low can we go? No, Jesus is saying, you know, that was a play in consciousness to experience how low can I go? But you don't see it at first, you know, it's innocent. We can laugh about it now, but in the throes of it, it feels really real. Because for our desire for it to feel real, there's no escaping this. We got to look, but it gets funnier. These light sessions are going to get funnier. It's funny. Jesus is funny. Okay. We're funny. We're adorably funny. Pretending not to be funny. Okay. And for this giving, God himself gives thanks. God is the goal of every prayer. It's the only goal to have. The smidgen to the left or right of the goal is death. Yep, ask Jesus. You can ask him. He'll tell you. It's for me that he's given it to me direct. That's it. Like, period. You can't. Not have supreme happiness. I'm taking his word on that. Giving it timelessness instead of end. The timeless celebration of all that is, all the gifts bestowed by the Father, our original state. Nor has it a beginning, because the goal has never changed. We're so used to, in the play of consciousness, it relishes, started seeing that with Jesus, like, oh my gosh, you just relish beginnings and endings. You can ask him, Jesus, do I relish the experience of beginning and endings? That's how it makes itself real. You got a little Sunday night and you're going to start sweating bullets because you got school the next morning. You see how, every day is different. And then you got Monday, you just drag myself through school. All these things that it's here. Come Thursday, you just starting to breathe again because tomorrow's Friday. And then, Friday night, fantastic. Saturday and Sunday, you're back in depression because you got to go to work. It loves that, the little, back currents and eddies of hell, making things different in time. Like, so around here, days it tell me what day it is. They're laughing. It's like, what? Thankfully somebody reminds me because we have to pay the gardener on Saturday. What day is it? That sounds terrible to the ego. It's like, I'm going to be lost. Yes, we're lost in heaven. That sounds great. Okay, prayer. Okay. Nor has it a beginning, because the goal has never changed. Prayer in its earlier forms is an illusion. Let's just do that directly. We have to see that is an illusion. And Jesus, if there's any desire for illusory prayer, let's just ask him, Jesus, do I have a desire below my level of awareness for illusory prayer? I'm going to ask for a miracle right away. Okay, will you, and we can ask his help, will you point out every time there's the slightest twitch of a prayer that's in the illusion? He'll help you for sure. He'll send a wake me up bouquet. He's here to help, but we have to open up the doors, Sung without words or thoughts, vain desires, unneedful now of anything at all. Any object asking for anything is a denial of prayer. I'm going to go, wait a minute. Other than the one goal of God, because that's holy. That's what he's saying. He's saying it's one holiness is to ask to know thyself as God made you. Because then you were asking for the only thing that can be asked for in this world, to know ourselves. It's a reversal of the goal to not know ourselves as holy. Prayer in its earlier forms is an illusion because there's no need for a ladder to reach what one has never left. See if the light needs a prayer ladder in there, in the light of infinite being. Does that need a ladder to know itself? These helpful expressions that Jesus is giving us as we start turning in to see that the prayer to ask for objects of this world is it. It's just simply that. To ask for something is to deny ourselves everything other than to know ourselves, to know God. Yet prayer is part of forgiveness as long as forgiveness itself, an illusion, remains unattained. So we pray for help with forgiveness, for forgiveness, because Jesus knows that we believe that there's a difficulty in order of miracles. Which means we really, in the play of consciousness, doesn't want miracles, doesn't want forgiveness. It wants to continue to play an objective experience. And forgiveness itself is an illusion. You can ask him, Jesus is forgiven. Illusion, does the light need forgiveness? But in the play of consciousness, in the denial of divinity, we need all the forgiveness we can ask for and receive. For ourselves, it's for ourselves to forgive ourselves for what never happened. To ultimately see that nothing can happen to the Son of God. Prayer is a part of as long as forgiveness itself, an illusion, remains unattained. Prayer is tied up with learning until the goal of learning has been reached. And then all things will be transformed together and return unblemished into the mind of God. Being beyond learning, this cannot be described. Stages necessary to its attainment, however, need to be understood. If peace is to be restored to God's Son, who lives now with the illusion of death and the fear of God. And so I just was asking Jesus, so prayer is a helpful form of transcending the fear of God? He says, yes. The prayer to know ourselves. Until we're willing to go empty-handed to our God. That is the only prayer there is. Empty-handed, meaning without agenda. And usually that's what we're doing. God, let me tell you what my agenda is. Instead of saying, God, what is your agenda for me? What's most helpful to heal the mind? Praying for others. We said that prayer is always for yourself, and this is so. Why then should you pray for others at all? And if you should, how should you do it? Praying for others, if rightly understood, becomes a means for lifting your projections of guilt from your brother and enabling you to recognize it is not he who is hurting you. This is the means given to see that we're hurting ourselves through the play of the denials, that there's no one outside to steal heaven from us. The poisonous thought that he is your enemy, your evil counterpart, your nemesis must be relinquished before you can be saved from guilt. For this, the means is prayer of rising power and with ascending goals until it reaches even up to God. I want to pay attention to this. This sounds good. It just means something. The more that we experience here, like the more time I've spent with Jesus. And Irene was saying that too. She said, been watching those videos where I first started to watch these light circles so many months ago. And I can see how my understanding that the Course is alive. You know, when you really clear these these little death wishes out, you'll see the Course lives within us. It was requested and given to us by us to see what's true. And it lives within, and you just see how much clarity there is in an understanding of what Jesus is teaching. And that's his promise for everyone. Everyone can have that. God's an equal opportunity employer. He's the only equal opportunity employer there is, with impunity. Because we're just the same as him. Every son is the same. So he can't offer one thing to one son and not to another. The earlier forms of prayer at the bottom of the ladder will not be free from envy and malice. They call for vengeance, not for love. This is when we're asking for objects, we're asking for vengeance. He says yes. Just in seeing all forms of prayer. Arguing with Jesus is a form of prayer, not to know ourselves. I said Jesus is, so it's, and I can feel the helpfulness is really looking with him and that with him of all forms of prayer in the mind that come from the call for vengeance. That's pretty deep. Nor do they come from the ones who understands that they are calls for death made out of fear by those who cherish guilt. Here we go, the word cherish. Jesus, is there a desire below level to cherish guilt? We have to see how much we cherish that. They call upon a vengeful God, and it is he who seems to answer them. Hell cannot be asked for another and then escape by him who asks for it. Only those who are in hell can ask for hell. Whoa. Okay, that's a deep one. Only those who are in hell can ask for hell. Let's get that fully. See, in heaven, we just sing gratitude to God. I'm asking them, yes. Whoa. Let's just get that, let that one detonate. Those who have been forgiven and who accepted their forgiveness could never make a prayer like that. To see that not to cherish guilt. Not following him is cherishing guilt. And making it acceptable to cherish guilt. Keep the guilt engine going. At these levels, then, the learning goal must be to recognize that prayer will bring an answer only in the form in which the prayer was made. This is enough. From here, it will be on easy step to the next levels. The next ascent begins with this. What I have asked for my brother is not what I would have. Thus I have made of him my enemy. It is apparent that this step cannot be reached by anyone who sees no value or advantage to himself in setting others free. This may be long delayed because it may seem to be a dangerous instead of merciful. To the guilty, there seems to indeed to be a real advantage to having enemies, and this imagined gain must go if enemies are to be set free. Okay, so this is a good one to look at Jesus with. So Jesus, do I believe below my level of awareness that there's any advantage to having enemies? And if he says yes, we just ask for a miracle, a change in perception that it's valuable to have enemies. You show me another way to look at that, that it's valuable to have enemies. This may be long delayed because it may seem to be dangerous instead of merciful. To the guilty, there seems indeed to be a real advantage to having enemies, and this imagined gain must go if enemies are to be set free. Guilt must be given up and not concealed. Nor can this be done without some pain, and a glimpse of a merciful nature of this step may for some be followed by a deep retreat into fear. This is why mighties are so helpful, because they'll see this for us, and Jesus will talk to them and remind us. It's a pullback. You know, I've talked about it, like kind of like the lens on a aperture on a camera. You'll have these deep, there's experience of these deep openings, like, oh, it's light. The light has come. I'm so happy. And all of a sudden, where'd you go, Jesus? Kind of. I feel like I'm in hell. And then it opens up. And then I feel like I'm in hell. And like this. Guilt must be given up and not concealed. I'm just talking to him now, you know, about this way he's giving. By going directly to desire. See, that's the going directly desire is the giving up of guilt. He says yes. And just release at the level of desire. And a glimpse of the merciful nature of this step, the merciful nature of release of the desire for the experience of guilt. And the ego may not interpret that. The interpretive function of consciousness is to make anything having to do with awakening painful. He says yes. That's why we have to ask him, even when discomfort is arising, because the ego go, want, something wrong, want, something wrong. So we have to ask him. For fear's defenses are fearful in themselves, and when they are recognized, they bring their fear with them. Yet what advantage has an illusion of escape ever brought a prisoner? His real escape from guilt can lie only in the recognition that guilt has gone. And how can this be recognized as long as he hides it in another and does not see that it is his own? So we have to see underneath it all that there's guilt. Guilt is a cover over. It's a cover over. It's a disguise not to look deeply with Jesus. Talking to him again about this. He's just trying to make it as easy on us as possible. So regardless of, in every circumstance, stay with the voice for God. Turn to the voice for God. Don't interpret anything without that voice for God. Let him interpret everything. He's saying, yes, it's much simpler. As soon as you're into the interpretive function of consciousness, because it does never interprets in your favor. You can ask Jesus, does consciousness ever interpreted anything in my favor? No, its whole function is to be against, for us to be against ourselves. I'm asking about this deep retreat, and he's saying, stay with me, see that the light's always here. There's nothing you can do about it. You can get as fearful as you want. That you can't change the lights here. It's good to see that and just keep back to light. And also, you have the power to, it doesn't exist. Like my 7-year-old niece, she put it in the light. What happens in the light, it melts trouble. To see it, the light of the truth. Whenever we're looking from the perspective We're back. It's still recording.
You're muted?
No, I unmuted.
Okay.
Y'all can hear me, right? We're going for God here, after all. Just ask Jesus. Let's all pray to Jesus to show us what, oh, that's love coming, to show us what true prayer is. That's our only prayer here. Our only prayer is to know what true prayer is, the song of salvation, the song of joy all the time. So even drop any idea that we think we know what prayer is, drop that. Any idea what God is, drop that. Any idea about anything, drop all of it. And just notice infinite light. Just notice what's infinite. I didn't think about exploring that. I was so busy exploring what's not, like Jesus said, you have a habit of focusing on what's not happening. That's what consciousness is made for. It's made to focus on what the untrue. So Jesus takes that focus, we turn it back in to notice infinite. What's infinite? That's interesting. Let me just be with light. Just notice the light. Notice the qualities of it. Does it have a beginning or end? Does it know what time is? Just stay with the holy instant. Just, just get curious. We're curious. What's before thought? And just resting as that, Mooji calls it marinating as light. It starts to bloom as more profoundly in the mind. Because we're so in a habit of using those thoughts in that little bee storm thing, the little beehive over our heads to say no. So let's just go and sit with Jesus and ask him, Jesus, just show me what prayer is. I don't know anything about prayer. And then we're open to the direct experience of what prayer truly is, our identity. So thank you, Jesus, for this reminder. Don't try to figure out prayer. You are the prayer. You are the song of salvation, the song of love. That's all there is a song of love. And then we just keep looking with Jesus, and he'll gently help us reveal the desires below our level of awareness that denies that we are prayer itself. Denies what's most natural to us, the natural song of prayer that just sings and sings. Amen.
Amen.
So much love. Thank you. I love you so much, all of you, for coming and bringing the reminder of lights. Bringers of light. Oh my gosh, so inspiring. We love you. So inspiring. Let your heart be light.